the Rogers Center in beautiful Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where on a beautiful afternoon, WGN Sports presents White Sox baseball. It's Jose Abreu, Adam Eaton, Alexi Ramirez in the Sox as they get set to butt heads with Edwin Encarnacion and John Gibbons' first place Toronto Blue Jays. Hi, everybody, and welcome. With Steve Stone, I'm Ken Harrelson as we get set to bring you the finale of this four-game set and the finale of this what has been a long, long road trip, 11-gamer. It's been a bad road trip. We started off in Minnesota. We got swept in 4 there. We go to Baltimore. We could have played better. We lost 2 out of 3. But here we have played better. We have won 2 out of 3. And this afternoon, Mark Burley on a buff against us.
Mark Burley's a good one. As you all know, you saw him for many years, and he's 10-4 this year with an ERA of 2.52. So this is a guy you want to work on getaway day because he works quickly. He changes speeds. He's throwing below the hitting speed these days, and he hasn't won his last 4 starts, and it's not because he hasn't thrown well. He's not getting offensive support. But when you look at the numbers over the course of Burley's career, they just have to startle you. He's 50 games over 500, a lifetime 3.80 ERA. As you can see, knocking at the door 3,000 innings. And the biggest stat, 13 consecutive seasons with 10-plus wins, 30-plus starts, and 200-plus innings. That shows durability. He always takes the baseball. He's a guy you love to have on your team. Unfortunately, he's on their team.
Well, everybody's talking about Jose Abreu, but Diane Viciedo of the Tank saying, hey, don't forget about me.
It'd be really easy to do Abreu every day. But that being said, Dan Viciedo has had a terrific series. This going out to right field. That was the second home run of the game, a game where the Sox hit 4 of them. This the big one yesterday, a 3-run homer. We hadn't done anything with Marcus Stroman. He left the game. Dustin McGowan came in, hung a curveball. That made it 3-2, en route to a 4-3 win. As you can see in the 15 over the Blue Jays, a 400 batting average, 4 home runs, 11 driven in, and 5 doubles. So the Tank doing a pretty good job hitting the ball well in this park. I think it helps for day games because you see the ball better, and we'll see today if they can get to their old pal, Mark Burley.
And he'll be opposed by our left-hander, Jose Quintana. So sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
is going to put him out there today. Adam Eaton leading off, and Gordon Beckman the 2 spot with Jose Abreu the DH, San Vicieto in left, Alexi Ramirez at shortstop with Paul Konerko getting a nod at first base, Moises Sierra in right field, Tyler Flowers behind the plate, and Leury Garcia at third base and hitting ninth. The defense and how they line up behind Mark Burley. Mastroianni, Rasmussen, Glenn in the outfield with Tollison, Reyes, Kawasaki, and Lynn in the infield. Gianna Navarro for the 4th straight game behind the plate, and Mark Burley on the hill. He's 10-4 this year, but his ERA a little above 2.5 on for his 17th start. You see the 107 innings, probably en route to at least 200, maybe a little bit more than that. And Burley gets the ball, throws it, and keeps it in the zone. The umpires for the game today: Brian Knight behind the plate, fielding Culbreth is at first, Manny Gonzalez is at second, and Jim Reynolds is at third. Mark Burley with 10 wins again. It's hard to believe, 13 straight years with at least 10 wins, at least 200 innings, at least 30 plus starts. What a career he's had. And so we're ready to play baseball. I'm ready to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
Hi, Stevie. Thank you. And once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here with WGN. So happy you could join us. And before we show you our picks to click, you at home select yours. As Mark Burley's first pitch to Adam Eaton is taken for a strike. Adam comes in hitting at 282, a homer. He's driven in 22. Outfield straight up for him. And the count 1-1. Adam has never faced Burley before. Sox come in hitting at 254 as a team with a 4.38 team ERA. Fouls that back, and if you want to try to beat Mark Burley, you better not let him go at his pace. You better step out. You better take time like Adam is doing in this at bat and try to slow him up.
Well, nobody knows Burley better than the Sox know him, and that's probably why Adam is taking his time.
And that's another souvenir. And here at beautiful Rogers Center, 328 down the line, 375 in the gaps, and 400 straight away center. Yes, he did.
This is the first one that Mark got down the entire at bat, and unfortunately that bat went around a little too quickly.
Yep.
And so Eaton is down on strikes.
So here's Beckham. Gordon at 261, 7 homers, 23 knocked in. And that pitch just off the outside corner. As Steve told you, Mark, 50 games over 500.
Pretty amazing for a guy drafted in the 38th round.
Well, it's, as I've said many times, and Sox fans have heard me, he's one of my all-time favorites White Sox player. And he is a guy who should be an inspiration to all young pitchers out there, aspiring major leaguers who are not hard throwers. But one thing about him, he's smart. He feels his position as good as anybody who ever went out there. And he's got as much guts as anybody I've ever seen on that bump.
I just love the fact he never shakes off his catcher.
2 down.
And the surprising part about it is it doesn't matter who his catcher is. He just hangs his sign, Mark throws it.
And let's check out our Southwest Airlines picks to click today. Jim Angier, our director and crew, went with Leury. Steve's going with Konerko and Dewey, Marianella, and Diego Tomko, and I. We're going to go with Adam Eaton and those Southwest Airlines. Brought to you by them. Find our fares only at southwest.com. Abreu reaches out. That didn't take long. 1, 2, 3, and after half inning play, it's our guys. Nothing, and their guys coming to bat.
Mastroianni and Encarnacion at the top, with Navarro, Glenn, and Lynn in the middle. Lynn getting a start against a left-hander. That's unique. And then Tollefson, Rasmus, and Kawasaki round it out. The defense, and now they'll line up behind Jose Quintana, Viciedo, Eaton, and Sierra in the outfield, with Garcia, Ramirez, Beckham, and Pinerco in the infield. Tyler Flowers behind the plate this afternoon, and Jose Quintana looking for win number 5. His ERA pretty respectable at 3.69 on for his 17th start. Having a last-minute conversation with Leury Garcia before he takes on a lineup that historically is much better against right-hand starters than they are against left-hand starters.
So here's Reyes. Reyes hitting at 261, 6 homers, 23 knocked in. He is 5 for 15 in this series, with 4 of those 5 hits coming in the first game. Blue Jays hitting at 261 with that 4.09 team ERA. Toronto 23-20 here at home and 22-18 on the road. Outfield straight up, about equidistant. That's knocked down. Over, can he get him? Oh yeah, nice play. Hopefully Quintana is okay. But a good heads-up play right there by Leury.
This ball hit hard back up the middle, and fortunately the carom is far enough for Garcia with that very strong arm to get it across and retire Reyes. And Herm Schneider coming out. They want a word with Quintana to find out that he is okay.
That's the only way you're going to get Reyes on that one, with your foot speed, which he has, which Leury has, and his arm strength, which he has.
They're apparently going to let him take a couple of throws.
Knowing Jose, he is not going to come out of this ball.
I certainly wouldn't think so. Not with that one hopper.
We've got 2 good left-handers out there today. We got 2 guys. We got plenty of stones. Both of them. So here's Mastroianni. Aaron. 1 for 16 since wearing that Toronto uniform, and that one hit came yesterday. That was a 2-run homer. Takes first pitch strike. Imagine that'll be a hit.
Mastroianni hits the ball hard. Alexi's there and just has the ball skip under the glove.
So here's their big bat. Encarnacion hitting at 277, 25 homers and 65 knocked in. 3 for 11 in this series with a homer. Short, quick swing this guy has, and he is powerful.
Well, he's 3 for 11, but he swung the bat a whole lot better than that. And in the absence of Bautista, he's the guy that's making this team stay afloat. He won yesterday to Leury at third base that almost took his face off.
Yeah, I talked to Leury after the game. The only thing he did was start laughing. What else you can do when you're that afraid? Stay in here. Now they're going to get him at first base. Brain cramp right there by Mastroianni. And a heads-up play by Tyler Flowers. And after 1, no score.
what Darren Mastroianni was thinking about is anybody's guess. This ball is clearly foul, and he is on the bag. He's thinking, I don't know if he's thinking I should tag up or what he's thinking exactly, but he's not even close to getting back after he did tag up.
Well, I've been playing this game since I was 6 years old. That was 66 years I've been into baseball. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I have never seen that in my entire baseball career. You see things in this game you've never seen before on a regular basis. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I've seen guys tag up and pop ups to shortstop when the shortstop is backpedaling. I've seen him tag up for third.
Oh, sure.
I haven't seen him tag up. I haven't seen him tag up on a ball in front of the dugout.
Tag bounces softly to second. By the way, if you're keeping time on Burley, that top of that first inning took 3 minutes and 11 seconds.
And the only reason it took that long was that Adam Eaton and to a certain extent Gordon Beckham actually stepped out, because otherwise he just gets it here, you hit it someplace and we'll go from there.
I want to keep time today and just see what his total amount of time on the mound is. As Alexei takes strike, he's hitting .295, 8 homers, 39 driven in. But if you're going to beat Burley, as I said, you're going to have to step out, make him wait. That's back to the middle. Then they get it. No. Good effort by Kawasaki. And here comes Gibby Cagney.
We'll take another look at it. Mark can't get to it.
John Gibbons.
He's safe at first. That was a good call by Field and Culbreth. You can see his foot on the bag, and that ball is still popping up from the artificial surface. So he's taking a look over in that dugout, and they're making the phone call.
No, he's not going to waste it right here.
No.
So that'll be a base hit for Alexei. And that'll bring up Konerko. Paulie, 4 homers, 16 knocked in. And he has faced his former buddy and teammate 3 times, has 1 hit. And he will pick you off first base.
Well, Alexei's getting a really short lead at first.
If you're not careful, he can still pick you off.
I was going to say, after watching Mark Burley for the few years that they were together as teammates, you realize that no lead is safe.
There's the strike. 1-1 the count.
Mark 1-0 lifetime against the Sox with an ERA .284. Quintana much better against Toronto, 3-1 with a .218 ERA lifetime. There you look at the only time he saw this ball club. 2 earned runs, only 2 walks. Pretty typical Mark Burley game. Gives up a lot of hits, doesn't give up a lot of runs.
Well, besides stepping out on him, you got to have a plan against good pitchers. And he's an outstanding pitcher. When you're 50 games over 500 in major leagues, you're a good pitcher. Very good.
I hope to tell you.
So what you have to do if you're a right-handed hitter, you have to take away the inside part of the plate. And you do that by backing off. And you got to beat him to right field. Right-hand hitters have got to try to beat Mark to right field. And there's a good piece of woodwork right there by Paulie, the veteran. If you can take away the inside part of the plate, or the specter in your mind of the inside part of the plate, you got a good chance to beat him.
More times than not, he's going to stay away, and this was a high changeup. So that was not where Mark wanted it. It's where Paul wanted it, because he was able to take it right by Kawasaki. So Burley in a bit of a jam.
You try to pull Mark Burley as a right-handed hitter, and you're going to go 0 for 4. Moises hitting at 196, a homer. He's driven in 6. That pitch right on the outside edge of the outside corner. Two on, 1 out, 1-1 to count. Finale of this 4-game set. They won the opener 7-0. Jay Happ out of Northwestern. We are never in that ball game. That's one of the few games this year that we have never been in, and certainly the first one on this trip. Then we won game 2 5-4, and then we won yesterday 4-3. 2 nail biters in both of those, which we have had a lot of nail biters on this trip. I'd rather have it this way, though, than the way it was last year. When you fall behind 2 or 3 runs last year, you might as well mail it into Cooperstown.
Now, this year, there's enough thunder in that lineup with the long ball to get back in a lot of games.
1 out. Check that. 2 outs.
If you're a young hitter, and of course Sierra is that, Mark Burley's going to take advantage of you by using your aggressiveness against you and get you out consistently out of the strike zone. If you allow him to, he might throw you strike 1. That might be the last pitch in the zone you see, if you allow him to.
Tyler out in front, yanks that one foul. Now the first 26 hitters that I saw Mark Burley pitch to on the backfields down in Tucson when he first joined us, he threw 23 first pitch strikes.
Not surprising.
As a kid.
But he's one of those guys because he didn't have a big fastball and he didn't have an overwhelming curveball. And he doesn't have a great slider. It's just that everything put together turns into a great pitcher.
He doesn't have good stuff?
No, if you break him down and look at the stuff and he's not Mark Burley and you put something Smith on his back, there's a lot of guys who wouldn't even sign him.
Got him. That's a good pitch. And we threaten, can't score after an inning and a half. Nothing.
WG.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich. He's your local nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 36 years. To join the nation, visit JeffVuk.com because Nationwide is on your side.
No score, bottom of the second inning. It'll be Navarro, Glenn, and Lynn. DeHonor hitting at .272, 5 homers, 34 knocked in. He's 2 for 10 in this series with a homer. First pitch, strike.
Over the last 12, you can see Navarro, who normally is a pretty good hitter, getting better and better.
Hell, everywhere he's been, he's hurt us.
And if you give him his choice, he would tell you that he wants to hit from the left side. 52 points higher as a left-hand hitter than a right-hand hitter.
Outfield straight up. That's cued foul. And while we have a moment, we'll sound a big White Sox hello to an old friend, Brett Mullahan. And Brett, we're thinking about you, buddy. Everything's going to be fine, and we all miss you.
There's a Pirate fan. That's a lot of hat for that young man.
Big on. So 1 out. The Sox fans celebrate Christmas in July at the ballpark on Monday, July 21st. Now, the first 1,000 fans to purchase tickets will receive a White Sox Ugly Christmas T-shirt. Also, there will be snow cone carts with red and green snow cones for the kids, and tickets start at just $15 for lower level seats. So to purchase, visit whitesox.com/Xmas. Brad Glenn 0 for 6 in his young career.
Vicietto is very deep in left field. Glenn has a lot of power.
Two pitch, they want it up again. He gone. 2 down.
Probably Jose has made the best use of that face-high fastball when he gets ahead of hitters of anybody on our staff. And he started doing it not his first year, but his second year, as Don Cooper suggested to him. Look, you got a good enough fastball where if you get ahead of hitters, show it to them face high. They can't do anything with it, and if they swing, strike out or pop up, and he's used it exceptionally well.
Here's Adam Lynn hitting at .338, 4 homers, 26 knocked in. Takes first pitch strike. He's 3 for 6 in this series with 3 RBIs.
Very rarely will he face left-hand pitchers, but with 3 of them back to back, Gibbons wants to give him a shot. The big problem is against a lefty with a breaking ball, that's basically what he looks like.
Well, I've only heard a couple of guys, left-handed hitters, ever say they had much rather face left-handed pitching.
Not too many.
One of them was pretty good, and that was Keith Hernandez.
He was very good.
Said he'd rather face left-handers than right-handers. Get over there. Oh, nicely done by Paulie. And a 1-2-3 inning. We'll go to the third, no score. Third inning against Mark Burley. First ball, honey. One pitch, one out. And how about this? You can enjoy pierogies and Polish sausages at the ballpark as we celebrate Polish Heritage Night on Tuesday, July 1st. White Sox are offering specially priced tickets to everyone with Polish heritage, their family and friends, and tickets start at just $10 for lower level seats. There's a strike. So to purchase, visit whitesox.com/PHN.
We used to have a catcher on the White Sox. Second time I played here, Bill Naharodny.
Ball line hard into right. Just a hang whooping for Adam.
And Bill was of Polish heritage. Family living in Hamtramck, Michigan, who went to play the Tigers. He invited a few of us over his house for dinner. I got to tell you something. Number one, it was terrific. Number two, I had heartburn for a week. But the food was great. Stuffed cabbage, which are galumpkies, and of course pierogies and kielbasa. Oh,
well, Hamtramck, of course, that's the home.
That is.
Chorix.
Yes, indeed.
I'm telling you, the whole clan, the whole crew.
I'm surprised Wimpy wasn't there. The food was free.
Well, I tell you, I guarantee he's still kicking himself in the behind. You know what his motto is?
That's right.
If you paid for it, it cost too much.
As Wimpy was playing at the time. Wimpy was still an active player. And he was a good hitter.
He was a tough out. And especially in big situations. As Beckham hits that one in the gap, and nobody's going to get that one. That's a one hopper for the ground rule double. That's the way you got to try to get Burley if you're a right-handed hitter. Right there, you go to right center.
All three hits have been sequentially just to the right of second base, right at second base, and right center field. So all three have been opposite field hits.
Now, if he does make a mistake and gets a changeup up or hangs a breaking ball, if you're a right-handed hitter and you're strong, you can still hit it out of the ballpark to left center. Or if he makes a mistake with a fastball, but you got to try to beat him. Because there is a base hit, so Beckham's going to be waved around. He's going to score, and we take a 1-0 lead on the 64th RBI by El Cañon. The cannon.
That was a good straight change, but Abreu, who was retired on a straight change the first time up, just adjusted. He stayed back. That pitch was out away. Jose has terrific plate coverage, and he drives it into left field, and so the hitting streak continues.
Well, that's 14 now. I got a feeling we're getting to the point. He's probably the smartest young hitter we've had come in this organization since Frank Thomas.
Well, I don't doubt that for a minute. He also has, and you talk about it all the time, he has one of the great approaches. You can see it in his batting practice. You can see him going about what he has to do on a given day. And he used that from the first time he put on the White Sox uniform till today. And
that's right.
He's going to probably use that his entire career.
And there is ball 4. Well, he's done nothing wrong. The only thing he had to correct, so to speak, quote, quote, correct or work on was getting out there too quick on low throws at first base. Well, they talked to him about it, he worked on it, and now he is good at that. He is right now, when we're told he was not a good first baseman, that was BS. This guy is a good first baseman. He's got good hands. There's a strike to Alexei. He had an infield single just to the right of second base. Caneco on deck. 1 in, 2 out, 2 on. So now the count goes in favor of Alexei. And you got to get on your iPads and your internet. Try to get Alexei and Abreu to target field for the All-Star game. That's softly hit up the middle. And there's the force, but we do pick up a run. The RBI single by Jose Abreu. We lead it 1-0.
Information. The Game Zone is powered by St. Xavier University. It's tradition and innovation, and this is where they meet.
It's a 1-0 ball game. Good guys lead it. It'll be Collison, Rasmus, Kawasaki here at the home half of the third inning. Steve hitting at .235, a couple of homers. He's driven in 7. 1 for 6 in this series. And he is the son of Wayne, former White Sox infielder. Out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. That's near Woodruff. One and 0 the count. Now feels straight up. There's a Burley type pick right there. Nice play by Quintana.
When the ball is hit to your glove side, you should make almost all of those plays. When the ball is hit to your throwing arm side, it becomes a little more difficult, and that one to the glove side, a one-hopper. And it certainly helps, because normally if you're not overshifting, the biggest hole in the infield is right back up the middle. And if the pitcher can cover that as a fifth infielder, he'll do real well.
Colby Rasmus hitting at .230, 11 homers and 26 knocked in. He homered in this series. Pitch hitting the other night. It was a blast.
He probably will maintain this tag the rest of his career as a guy that you keep expecting to have that breakout year and to become the player everybody thought he would be with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he hasn't gotten there yet.
Well, it's certainly not because of anything physical.
No, he has all the strength, all the speed, everything you would need to be successful. And you take a look at what he's done against our ball club. It's okay. It's just not great.
Well, he's got a real good hitting coach now, Kevin Seitzer. And Kevin, I'm sure, is going to try to give him a different approach. You get a guy like him, as he gone, 2 down, and you get a guy like him with that kind of talent and that kind of strength. And he's got a quick man. He doesn't have a real long swing. So all those ingredients put together will tell you it's the approach. It's between the ears. He's got to have a better thinking process. And that's where Kevin Seitzer was really good.
Well, I think coming here, getting a chance to come here as a hitting coach, you have a lot to work with. And this is the second highest scoring team in the American League. You've got to love to be hitting coach with these guys. There's look at Kevin.
Well, what a good line drive hitter he was to right field. Right-handed hitter. He could knock in big runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning off good pitching. No home runs, but just line drives all over the ballpark.
Well, they had a different philosophy that Kevin wanted to teach his hitters in Kansas City, and that's why they parted ways. That's why they've had 6 hitting coaches in the past, I don't know, year and a half or so.
Now, something's wrong with that picture.
Yeah. But he did get those young hitters to hit line drives to all fields, and they wanted them to hit lots of home runs.
Kawasaki. And there's a nice, quick inning for Quintana. Fourth inning. We have a run on 4 hits. They have no runs on 1 hit. Paulie. A single into right field. Two best buddies right here, Paulie and Burley.
Somewhat surprising with these Blue Jays in that day games, they're 3 under 500, 12 and 15. Night games, 10 over 500. So catching them during the daytime is a pretty good idea.
Well, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Certainly with Bautista out of this.
Well,
series.
This was a huge break. I mean, look, we had already lost Avisaíl Garcia. We're playing. Team is used to playing now without him, and will be for the rest of the year. But Bautista went down recently, and with him out of their lineup, boy, that's a huge, huge bat for him.
Well, he just changes the whole personality of that lineup. The whole personality.
Brett Lawrie, the same thing, because he was getting better. He hit 12 home runs, driving in 38. He seemed to be really adapting to second base. He broke his finger. He's out also, but he's not coming back anytime soon.
Paulie taking his time, which is what you've got to do. Yeah, that's the toughest job in baseball. Uniform job is being a hitting coach. Chases a bad one there. So that's a 4th strikeout for Mark.
He drifts his ball up and out of the zone, and most of the at bat, Mark stayed high, and it worked this time against Paul. Didn't work the first time.
Here's Moises. He struck out his first trip. deep. Stretch. He's back, looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes. Number 2 for Moises, and it's a 2-0 Sox lead.
2 and 7 on the power numbers. And Moises fighting the hand that once fed him, or taking advantage of a team that sent you away. This is a changeup, only it's right down the middle. And Sierra able to get most of it, taking it over the bullpen.
Yeah, that's what he struck out on. Moises struck out on his first changeup. This one was a mistake. And when you're facing good pitchers, you got to hit mistakes.
That's only the 8th home run Mark has given up in over 110 innings of work. So he's keeping the ball in the ballpark very well. But he's given up 5 hits already in this one. When Sierra came over, he wasn't particularly good batting average was. But as a member of the Sox, he's sitting in excess of 265 since putting on that Sox uniform. So he's done a pretty good job.
He's a very talented guy. Now, whether or not he's going to get over the hump, he's just 25 years old. So he's got to even a couple of years before he get to that window of that 26, 27, 28. Where guys usually find it or they don't.
He's another one of those guys. And it's a little like Rasmus, only maybe not quite that level, but he can run like the wind. He has as strong arm as there is maybe in baseball. And he's got, as you saw, he's got power. It's a question of harnessing all of those things.
Well, when you get guys like that, when you get Erasmus, when you get Moises, you get a guy like Mike Moustakas. With those guys, this approach, if they get the right approach, because they all have the physical skills, they all have the strength. There's no reason Rasmus can't hit 25, 30 home runs a year. There's no reason Moustakas can't hit 25, 30 home runs a year, hit 280 driving close to 100. You know, I mean, it's just all approach. Not mechanics.
You really wonder if Dayton Moore might get to the point where they run out of some patience with Moustakas, because it could very well be the second team he goes to is really going to reap the benefits.
Somebody
of
is,
a guy
if they get him on the right track.
With all kinds of tools.
Yeah.
Terrific third baseman. Just cannot consistently hit at this point.
Well, he's one of the reasons that I picked Kansas City in this division this year, because of the fact I thought he was going to come out of it. He hasn't to this point, but he's still very young. Kawasaki makes a nice play. But the home run by Moises Sierra, we lead it 2-0. It'll be the top of the order. Reyes, Mastroianni, Encarnacion. Reyes hit a hot shot back off the shin of Quintana. Bounced over towards third, and Leury quickly got to it, and with that gun he's got, just got him at first base. So one Schinberger in the game thus far. Takes a bunt, takes a breaking ball strike. Oh, and 2 the count.
Good off speed pitch on the outside corner.
Jose making his 17th start of the season. Mark Burley making his 17th start of the season.
Last 2 times out, Jose has been his usual self. He went 7 innings both starts. Gave up 6 hits each time. Gave up 2 runs against Minnesota. 1 run against Baltimore. Got a no decision, and he beat Baltimore.
Good pitch, did not get it.
No, he did not get that one, despite the fact that Reyes looked it into the glove, and that's what he did last time out. He had terrific stuff against a good hitting team in their home park.
Full count.
In the grand scheme of things, this is a pretty big hitter. You got Mastroianni in the on-deck circle, but he's not the guy you worry about. You don't want to face Encarnacion with anybody on base.
Payoff pitch.
That ball was inside off the plate, and Reyes was able to foul it straight back.
And another souvenir. After this game, we will board our United Charter. Come on home.
Get ready to see
what it seems to be a month-long road trip.
And get ready to see Mike Trout and company.
Tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So make your plans to be with us at the ballpark. And another foul ball.
Reyes is not a big strikeout guy. That's it. You can't strike him out. It's just that he doesn't strike out often.
Well, he's been struck out already in this at bat.
Yeah, he would have been. 35 strikeouts, 278 at bats.
So he had him struck out and he singles instead. So the leadoff man aboard.
Tenth pitch of the at bat. Jose Reyes just reaches out. The pitch is down the middle, and he takes it into left field. Not the way you wanted to start this one off.
Well, how many strikes you going to give him? Brian Knight missed it right there. The whole ball had the plate. So here's Mastroianni. He singles sharply into left field. Takes first pitch strike. Reyes 16 for 17 in stolen bases. He's got 16 of the 36 that Toronto has. Decent lead. And the count 0-2. Now feels slightly to the right. Big gap out there in left center. It's pitch out, nothing on.
Because of the speed of Mastroianni, and he does have very good speed, they're in a little closer on the left side than they normally would be.
Two and two. So it was way ahead of him. Now it's a full count. Big pitch coming up. In the scheme of things, nice crowd on hand today. They're averaging 26,679. We had 39,000 last night. 39,600. And that is going foul. And he makes the catch. What? He stayed right with it. That's a second. Really good play going into the seats by Sierra that he has made since he's been in a White Sox uniform.
Good concentration, knowing that the wall is but a half step away. He's able to take advantage of that padded area, make the catch, and retiring Mastroianni with Encarnacion coming to bat is a big play.
Encarnacion fouled out into a double play.
Mastroianni on first. The pop-up. Now the Flowers crawling for it. Catches it. And can't believe when he finds Mastroianni that far off the bag.
So 1-0 the count. And the count evens in that series starting tomorrow night against the Angels. We're going to run Noesi, Scott Carroll, and Johnny Danks out there. They're going to run Garrett Richards, Jared Weaver, and to be announced.
Last 14, Encarnacion has been red hot. And that was a perfect pitch. Good hard slider. Caught the whole plate. And Encarnacion couldn't pull the trigger.
They has a little bigger lead now. Too much time. There he goes. That's into left field. So 2 down.
He got that cutter way in on his hands. And then Encarnacion expanded his zone. Take a look at where 4 pops up. This ball is a good 6 inches inside, and try as he might, Encarnacion can't get the hands in and make good enough contact to do anything with it.
So here's Deanna Navarro, struck out, leading off the second inning. Now feels slightly to the right. Big gap out there in left center. That evens the count at 1. And other action today. Cleveland at Seattle. Houston hosting Detroit. Angels at Kansas City. Minnesota taking on the Rangers down in Texas. That's low. There you go. And that pitch fouled away.
Reyes has been in one of those streaks in this series where every time he does get a chance to run and does run, the hitter either puts in play or fouls it off. He does not have a stolen base in this series, which in 3.5 games is something for this guy.
Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. And that's foul. There he goes. He gone. Breaking ball got him. And that'll retire the side. We'll go to the 5th. It is 2-0 White Sox. And so you have no runs on 2 hits here in the top of the 5th inning if you're just joining us. And for us, it'll be the top of the order. Adam Eaton, Jordan Beckham, and Jose Abreu. Adam 0 for 2. He struck out his first trip. Then in the 3rd, hit a line shot right to Brad Glenn in right field. And just foul. 1-1 to count. Count evens at 2. It's full. And that's slicing, and that's going to be a souvenir. Adam now 1 for 7 in the series. And that's the leadoff walk. Second walk issued by Burley. And a reminder, Sox fans, did you know that you can rent out suites for individual games? Well, our Diamond Suites can host a variety of needs, seating as few as 10 and all the way up to 100. A single game package includes a basic food menu as well as the beverages and parking passes. So to purchase, visit whitesox.com/suites. Those are nice. As Gordon takes ball 1. Gordon grounded to short, and then he doubled. Ground rule double, 1 hop over the fence in right center field and scored. That was in the 3rd inning.
Ruggs only walked 30 guys in 111 innings, so this is uncharacteristic wildness for him. He's good to take advantage of it.
Rasmus straight up and deep in center field. Outfielders are about equidistant apart. And that's off the plate. So 2-1. Adam, decent lead over there. Gordon checking down with Joe McEwing. That's popped up. Get out of here. Won't. So 1 out. And that'll bring up Abreu. Cannon is 1 for 2 with an RBI. Picked up his 64th, knocking in Beckham with a single to left field.
first time with a changeup, but not the second time. That was the first run of the ball game.
Yeah, the rocket caught by Kawasaki, and they double him up. Boy, that's a hang whoop 'em right there for Abreu. Meanwhile, we're halfway home. We lead it 2-0. Man. We lead it 2-0. RBI single by Abreu, homer by Moises Sierra. So far, the Blue Jays here in the 5th. It'll be Glenn, Lind, and Tollefson. And that is foul.
Leary was playing him right on the line, so it's doubtful it's going to get the ball between him and the baseline.
Ben struck out his first trip. '27-year-old, 6'2", 220. Got that one by him at 91.
You just can't catch the fastball upstairs. And if Jose stays up there one more time, it's going to end like the last one ended.
Full count. One hopper and one out. Sox fans, join us on Friday, July 4th at 6:10 as our Sox take on Robinson Cano and the Mariners. Now, the first 20,000 fans ages 21 and over will receive a White Sox tailgate flag presented by Miller Lite. Enjoy our Independence Day celebrations and post-game fireworks presented by Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. Miller Lite, official beer of yours. White Sox. WhiteSox.com or 866-SOX game. Lynn takes inside ball one. Adam grounded out to his counterpart, Abreu.
Last year, Lynn had a bounce back year. He hit .288, 23 home runs, 67 driven in.
Bounced out to Canerco, I should say, last time. Meanwhile, 2 down. So here's Tolleson. He's 0 for 1. Went out 1-3. Outfield playing him straight up. Breaking ball. Got the benefit of that one. 0-1.
Jose's really tightened up his breaking ball, because at times earlier in the season it just was having a tendency to roll up there. Now it's sharp, late breaking, and pretty close to unhittable.
A ball and 2 strikes.
Against Toronto over the course of his career, he's always been tough. 3-1, his ERA just barely over 2 in 5 starts. Today he's given up just 2 singles, and that's been it.
Did not go.
Appeal to the crew chief, Field and Culbreth. He says nope.
Full count to Tolleson. That's the first walk issued by Tampa. Colby Rasmus struck out his first trip. Now 1 for 7 lifetime off Jose. Breaking ball.
Rasmus does not appear to see the breaking ball very well. He can't pick up the spin, and so he's had some awkward swings.
Paulie. Count 0-2. Tolleson, pretty good lead. He gone. And that'll retire the side. We're into the 6th, leading 2-0. Ramirez and Konerko here in the top of the 6th inning. 2-5-0 for us, 0-2-0 for them as Tank checks it up, takes a strike. And that changeup fouled away. Out and around that changeup.
This is what's been happening to Mark Burley in the month of June. He's been throwing the ball pretty well, just about as well as he threw it before when he ran his record to 10-1. But he's not getting a whole lot of offensive support.
Well, he's used to that.
Yeah, but 50 over 500. That's pretty amazing.
Well, it is. Just and you're talking about a tough luck pitcher. Most of the time with us, if he didn't have any bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. We played bad defensively. It usually was when he was on the mound. As he strikes out, Tank. 5 strikeouts now for Mark.
This is what Mark Burley did with the Sox over the course of his career. 365 starts. A lot of strikeouts, a lot of innings, and well over 500.
That ball hit high and deep, stretch. Mastroianni back, he looks up, and it is foul.
The home run that Ramirez hit in this series, very similar to that. The only difference was it hit the netting. And this one just barely hooked in front of it. See the ball all the way? Not foul by much.
The 0-1 pitch. Good motion right there. Had him way off balance, way out in front.
The only thing Navarro behind the plate has to worry about is the backswing of Alexei. He's gotten a number of catchers this year.
And that's by Collison. So Alexei on his way to second. He will get there. That's his 13th two-bagger.
Navarro called for a sinker, and this ball stayed up. It was inside. It wasn't a strike, but Alexei was able to take it right down the line and just by a diving Steve Tolleson.
Pick him up, Paulie. Paulie 1 for 2. Single in the right and a strikeout. On the outside edge or the outside corner. Trying to take that one into right. And another one. And once again, a reminder, make your plans to be with us starting tomorrow night. Mike Trout and the Angels in town. Of course, Mike's counterpart in the National League, Bryce Harper. He's doing a rehab down at Harrisburg, where last night he hit 3 home runs.
I would say he's showing them that he's pretty much ready to go.
What a great talent coming into baseball. That one just off the corner.
I think Burley wanted it. I think Navarro wanted it. It looked for a moment like Knight was going to raise his arm. But he said nope. Missed wide.
He got a cookie right there. And couldn't do anything with it. So Lexick will move into third. 2 down.
Our fourth drive of the game came back in the 4th inning with 1 out. And Moises Sierra against his former mates. Took it back over the bullpen. That's his 2nd home run of the year. His 7th driven in. But it was enough to give the Sox a 2-0 lead.
Outfield playing almost everybody now straight up. First couple of games they were bunching everybody.
That was Melky Cabrera in left field. Mastroianni doesn't have those kind of skills. Certainly doesn't have the arm of Melky.
Oh, he's a good outfield.
Yes, sir. Mastroianni, you might remember from his days with the Minnesota Twins.
Two. There's a chopper 2 hopper, and that will retire the side. We get the double from Ramirez. Can't do anything with it. We'll go to the bottom of the 6th, leading 2-0. games here, the finale of this 11-game road trip. And we're trying to make it 3 in a row with these Blue Jays. They took the opener 7-0 behind Jay Howe. And Brady with a couple home runs. We won game 2, 5-4. And then last night we won it 4-3. Big home run by Viciedo.
I think you got to watch the bunt from Kawasaki, who hasn't been able to do much with the left-handers you've seen from our guys.
First pitch strike. Kawasaki grounded out to Alexei his first trip. Outfield bunched a bit, swung well around to the left.
Not too many pitches so far. 76 of them as Jose has been in command.
Pretty good pitch, didn't get it. Kawasaki trying to emulate Encarnacion's waggle at the plate. Broken bat. One down. And a reminder, join us for Noche Tropical Festival on the Plaza, presented by Pepsi, on Saturday, July 19th. Located at Gate 5, Noche Tropical features Latin music performances, pregame, and other activities for fans of all ages. For especially priced tickets, call 866-SOX-GAME or visit whitesox.com/tropical. Reyes, 1 for 2.
Well, I can understand where you might get a little tired at the park, especially when your team's offense has been shut down.
1-1 to count to Reyes. And that is down into the corner. Here's the throw. Safe. Good effort by Viciedo.
Two runs down, and Reyes takes a gamble here as he gets it down the line on this fastball that's well inside. And Tank goes over, does a nice job not only getting to it, but without setting himself, getting the throw in to make it very close at second base. Manny Gonzalez right on the call, and that arm got in ahead of the tag. So he's aboard again, only this time with 1 out.
That's Troyani. He has singled and he has fouled out. A good catch by Sierra. In foul territory.
The man at second and 1 out. Blue Jays hitters have delivered 37% of the time. Sox pitchers have given up runs 43% of the time. And the Blue Jays right at league average. at 37%.
Shots that one foul. In case you missed some of the action yesterday, Atlanta beat the Phillies in a doubleheader 10-3 and 5-1. Nasty Nats beat the Cubs a doubleheader 3-0 and 7-2. There's a strike. Mets over the Pirates 5-3. Dodgers 46-37. They beat the Cardinals 9-1. Boston beat Tanaka 2-1. Lester over the right-hander. Tanaka now 11-3. Lester 9-7. And they get him. 2 down. Napoli with a home run in the top of the ninth.
I feel the only way you're going to beat Tanaka these days is his record fell to 11-3.
There's Encarnacion. 0 for 2. Takes ball 1. In 14 innings, Oakland beat the Marlins 7-6 down in Florida. Milwaukee 51-32 beat the Rockies 7-4 at Miller Park.
And then Encarnacion has done just a terrific job against our Sox. But for the moment, Quintana has his number.
Two and 0. Strike.
Chris Sale yesterday pretty much went around him, making sure he couldn't do him any damage. Against Chris, a base hit and a couple of walks, but he did not figure in the scoring.
Now the count 3-1.
He's fanned Navarro twice, and this is the danger pitch. Obviously, you just as soon keep it away, and if he wants to get himself out of the strike zone, let him do it. You've got first base open.
That's ball 4. Second walk issued by Quintana. Yeah, this line's got a different personality without Bautista. And here he comes.
And the fans giving him a standing ovation as Navarro being taken down. And Bautista was at 15 homers, driven in 49 in 77 games to go with a 305 batting average. Stepping in, and this is his first pinch hitting role of the year, as you would expect, a man who plays every day.
Now he's got one of the great triggers in baseball. And by trigger, I mean cocking action with that front leg. As now Coop goes out. He creates a lot of hang time.
Last home run coming on June 6th. Early in his career, didn't have that hang time on the major leagues. But he certainly found it in 2010 when he hit 54 of them for these Blue Jays.
Yeah. What's that front leg of his? He will get it up there, creating the hang time, but he's hitting off the fastball all the time. Yeah, breaking ball. Great stand music for the Cardinals. Created a lot of hang time, always hitting off your best fastball. And count 2-0.
He is the back of the box with that front foot turned in and raised.
There's a strike. And when you create that hang time, it's a lot easier to clear your hips. Guys who that front foot hits the ground too quick, you can't clear your hips. You get locked up. And the count 2-2.
That last pitch was a good one. Bautista gave up on it, and it snapped right over the middle of the plate. Then it goes a wild pitch. Big break here was Encarnacion stayed at first, meaning you can still get a force out on a ball hit and you might not have a play at first.
So runners at the corners, 2 down, and a full count to Bautista. Over to second, and that'll retire the side. The ball just jumps off this bat. Man. Meanwhile, we're into the 7th, leading 2-0. University of Chicago Medicine Comer Children's Hospital, and we are teaming up to promote a healthy lifestyle and combat childhood obesity. Now, members will receive free White Sox tickets, also cool exclusive kids club items, and visit whitesox.com/kids club to join.
Josh Thole takes over behind the plate.
Jammed him. Flowers, 1 pitch, 1 out. He's 0 for 3 now. So that'll bring up Leury Garcia. Two and 1 to count. Leury twice has gone out to Kawasaki at second. Outfield straight up, spread out. Nice pick by Tolleson. Top of the order. Adam Eaton. Adam 0 for 2. Strikeout, a line shot to right, and a walk.
9 ground ball outs thrown by Mark Burley. So for the most part, he's kept the ball in the infield. It's Javi Guerra loosening in the pen.
And the count 2-0. Kawasaki's got him. And another 1-2-3 inning. 7th inning stretch. We lead it 2-0. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning in a 2-0 Sox lead. Brad Glenn will lead it off. He's 0 for 2, a strikeout and a ground out to third. Outfield straight up and takes first pitch strike.
And with Garrett continuing to throw in the bullpen, you would think that Robert is not going to allow Jose to get in a big jam here in the 7th.
One and two the count.
Right at the 100 pitch mark, and almost without exception, they've all been very good. Just 3 base hits.
Well, we'll be coming home after today's game. As we mentioned, starting tomorrow, make your plans to be with us. A 3-game series against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Mike Trout, Mike Scioscia's crew. Has popped up right side. Beckham making the call. And that's out number 1. And you can see your name in lights at US Cellular Field in an upcoming game. Wish someone a happy birthday, congratulations, happy anniversary, or much more. So all proceeds benefit White Sox charities. Visit whitesox.com/scoreboard. These Blue Jays will have Milwaukee coming in. They have an off day tomorrow, then Milwaukee coming in Tuesday and Wednesday. Then they go on a pretty good trip. They go to Oakland for 4. As Lynn can't get it. Angels for 3, off day. And then they go from LA to Tampa Bay for a 3-game set. So 10-dayer with 9 games. Going from California to Florida.
And the only thing you wonder about is, will David Price still be a member of the Tampa Bay Rays by the time Toronto gets there? Because he is one of the big bargaining chips as we head toward the trading deadline at the end of July.
Well, this club right here might go after. Toronto might go after David Price.
They're going to go after a top of the line starter.
Paul Beeston, his general manager. They like to get things done. And Beastie, of course, is one of the mainstays in building back in the 80s. There he is with Cito Gaston. Cito with 2 world championships. And Beastie on the right, one of the best liked guys in baseball. In fact, those 2 guys right there, 2 of the best liked guys in baseball. 2 wonderful, wonderful baseball men. They just might go after David Price.
I think they're going to be asking for not only the purchase price of David Price, but Jeff Samardzija, maybe Jason Hamill. They would love in that deal to get a second baseman thrown in, because they certainly would like one of those. But pitching is a top priority with them.
I don't know. I think maybe more than second baseman, they'd rather try to get a third baseman. Lind twice has gone out to Paulie at first base. That's fouled away. Full count to the Muncie, Indiana native. He gone. He knew it. 2 down.
After a fairly long at bat, he just surprised them with a fastball. That one had the whole plate. And Lind, who does not hit left-handers particularly well, hasn't had the ball out of the infield today.
So here's Tollefson. Steve. 0 for 1 with a walk. GM here is Alex Anthopoulos, who's done a good job. Good solid job. This club is in excellent position to win the East.
Well, it was like a whole lot of other clubs who allowed their general manager to finally spend some money, because they took a carload of money when they made that trade with the Miami Ball Club.
And they unloaded a carload prior to that.
So. Yeah, well, yeah, I remember that one.
Here you go. And we're into the 8th.
Game. Sox have out hit the Blue Jays 6-3. It's been an airless game. Quintana's gone 7. He's been brilliant. 7 strikeouts, 2 walks. Abreu extended his hitting streak to 14 games with a single in the 3rd inning, that driving home the first run of the game. And Gordon Beckham steps up and pounds it right at Tollefson, who stays with it and fires across to get him. Gordon now 1 for 4. Art Burley continues to throw ground balls and continues to throw very well. Fortunately for our boys, Jose Quintana has been out pitching him as Jose Abreu steps up. He's 1 for 3 with that aforementioned RBI single in the 3rd. Swings at a changeup and no contact. Came in hitting .280. Added to his RBI total with 64. And now that Giancarlo Stanton has committed to the home run derby in the National League from the Miami Marlins, Jose Bautista was going to talk to Jose Abreu face to face to find out if he would participate in the home run derby for the American League. Little looper and Kawasaki out to make the catch. So a good play by the second baseman, who was the only guy who could make it. And Encarnacion couldn't get back there, and Glenn couldn't get over.
Well, I am hoping Jose sticks to his first thought about the home run derby, and that is not to participate. People see and have heard enough about him during the season.
That one fouled straight back. Viciano is 0 for 2 with a walk. Start something.
Don't have to take a chance on killing your timing.
The bullpen up and going. Eric Surkamp, who's been a busy man since moving into that pen, and Jake Petrichka.
Eric has worked 3 straight days. That is the first time in his career he's ever worked 2 straight days.
Well, if he's going to spend some time here, it's going to have to be in that pen. As that one shot up the middle. Good play by Reyes to his left. Throws and gets it. So 1-2-3 inning. And it's still a 2-run lead for our Sox.
The #1 live streaming sports service is celebrating now 12 years, so you can join the millions of subscribers. You can watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. So visit WhiteSox.com for details.
Jose Quintana went 7 strong, and a whole lot of guys down there are very appreciative of this performance on a very warm day. Struck out 7, walked 2, gave up just the 3 hits. So Eric Surkamp comes into the ball game. ERA 5.40 on for the 4th time.
Well, when you're the only left-hander in that pen, you're going to see some action.
Well, here's 4 in a row, and you would think that he would be on just to face the left-handers. And the first 2 are leading off with Rasmus. If they allow Kawasaki to hit, he would be second in the inning before they move to the top.
Rasmus 0 for 2 with a couple of strikeouts against Quintana.
Alejandro Diaz takes over in left.
First pitch strike. Two runs, 6 hits, no errors for our guys. No runs, 3 hits, no errors for their guys.
Melky Cabrera, who was going to come in to hit if Bautista could have kept it alive last inning, now in the on-deck circle, and he'll hit for Kawasaki.
High into left field. Diaz. So a big out, always a big out. And here comes Melky.
Cabrera hitting an even 300. Much better hitter from the left side, however. 315 as opposed to 261 as a right-hander. And this is his first pinch hitting appearance of the year.
Pitch. Evens the count.
It's in the American League. Altuve at the top by a pretty substantial margin over Melky. And it's Jones, Kinsler, and Markakis.
One and two the count.
Ian Kinsler had a big 3-run homer last night. And that eventually helped do in the Houston ball club, who was ahead of Detroit 3-1 heading into the bottom of the third this afternoon.
Nice pitch. Had him off balance. 2 down. And here's their leadoff hitter, Jose Reyes. Reyes is 2 for 3. He's 7 for 18 in the series. One to count. So Reyes will be 31 years old tomorrow.
That one was a good straight change, and it spun Reyes completely out of the batter's box up the first base line.
Nice inning for Eric Surkamp. Nice inning for Eric, taking care of the 8th for us. And we're into the 9th, leading 2-0.
checks in the game at third base. That shifts Steve Tollefson over to second from third. And Sergio Santos comes into the game at 0-2. His ERA 6.23 on for the 21st time. We've seen him in the series. And he had some problems, but he's always had a good slider. Melky Cabrera stays in the game in left field.
It would not hurt our cause if we got another point or two. Alexei Konerko. Sierra. As Alexei. He's 2 for 3. A single, a double. Takes ball 1. One and one to count.
Well, with the clouds starting to bunch and the threat of some weather in the area, they have started to close the roof.
Takes 20 minutes to close this roof. That ball hit high and deep. Cabrera going back to the track, makes the call, has the ball. And that's out number 1.
I would say about 14 minutes from now, that would have been a home run, because when the roof is entirely closed, it is livelier in the ballpark. So that ball hit to the track, was swatted down as it got close.
Here's Paulie. Paulie 1 for 3. And he takes first pitch strike. Paulie, who's been coming here for a long time. Making possibly his last plate appearance here at the Rogers Center. One and one to count.
Sergio's getting it up there 95-96, so there's nothing wrong with his arm at this point.
Well, he's just the kind of guy that you, except obviously when he's pitching against us, that you pull for. He is just a terrific teammate, a terrific human being.
And when given the opportunity to close, he just grabbed the bull by the horns and closed. I mean, he was
30 on the board in a hurry.
He was a good one.
Yeah. Pitch at 88 had him a little off kilter.
Well, you get an 88-mile-an-hour slider, you're doing pretty good, and that is a true slider. That's not a cutter, which means it's got some depth to it. 88 is one of the harder sliders around.
Boy, when he was with us, he had one of the best sliders in the league.
No doubt. No doubt at all.
Full count to Konerko. Sierra on deck. Payoff pitch. And he walks it.
On our Xfinity Speed replay, came in the 4th inning. Moises Sierra keeping his concentration as he gets close to the wall and making a terrific catch. Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Yeah, he broke it down in a hurry getting over there. I didn't think he was going to be able to, but he did. There's a shot. He was looking for that fastball. He got it and turns it around for his 4th double.
Home into double as he gets a first ball fastball and drives it into the corner.
Now, Ty Severson's going to have a good time with Sierra because he knows he's just got a bundle of talent to work with there. Might take a little time to fine tune him here, tweak him there. But you got somebody with that much talent.
Well, since putting on that White Sox uniform, he's hitting around 275. Overall, it's not impressive, but obviously, Todd Severson is not really concerned with overall. What he's concerned with is what he does while he's here. And now the infield in at all 4 positions.
Tyler 0 for 3. He's due. Struck out, went out to right, and grounded to short. We need some contact here. And he gets it for the base hit, and that's going to score a pair. Attaboy, Tyler. And it is a 4-0 game.
RBIs 24 and 25 for Tyler. And those are a big 2. That is a slider. He just stays with it, goes down and gets it. It wasn't a strike, but it was 2 runs batted in.
Well, when you do that, he was just looks like he was just sitting dead slider.
Well, you figure that's
make that good a pass at it.
That's the favorite pitch of Sergio Santos.
Yeah. Well, you got to make that commitment. When a guy's throwing 95 out there, it's just sometimes it's tough to say, okay, I'm going to look for the slider. But it looked like the way he approached that slider, he was just sitting dead slider.
Being a catcher, he probably felt because he got the first ball fastball tattooed by Sierra, maybe he'd want to change. Well, change into
all that comes into play.
Yeah, changed into a base hit.
Look at what he did in Baltimore the other night. He got a big base hit, second play.
Yes, he did.
That's what the approach is. When you're thinking like that, you're not thinking mechanics. Ergo, base hit. Ergo, 2 RBIs. Back him up. So Tyler Flowers with a huge 2-run single. We'll go to the bottom of the 9th, leading 4-0. Yes.
situation, but he still has to nail it down. He's 0-2. His ERA a fine 2.08. On for the 35th time after one outstanding inning by Eric Surkamp, who threw a 1-2-3-8 when the game was very much on the line, a 2-run game. That was one of the biggest innings he's probably thrown in his career.
Well, it's one of the biggest innings we've had in a long time. How long has it been since we've had a 1-2-3-8 with a lead?
Not on this trip. Not on this.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to go dig back into that book of yours there to find out when it was. I should say that archive.
Well, I get a few chives here.
So here's Francisco. Hitting in Mastroianni's spot. Aaron was 1 for 3. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had any late inning 1-2-3.
Haven't had a 1-2-3 in this series until this.
For a guy who's never worked 2 days in a row, working 4 days in a row.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. Very, very impressive. That might be exactly what Rick Hahn had in mind for him.
June 20th.
He went from the starter to the reliever.
June 20th, a 1-2-3 inning comprising Willingham, Morales, and Suzuki in Minnesota. That was it. It's a while ago.
That's amazing.
Today's the 29th.
Yeah, it really is. Alexei got him. 1 out.
Good positioning because that one went right back over the mound. Normally you'd think about a base hit, but Alexei was playing up the middle.
I guarantee you Jake thought it was a base hit because he didn't know. He didn't check where his infielders were playing.
Anytime a pitcher sees a ball go over his head or whizzing by him, he pretty much feels like, I got a man at first base.
So here's where you want this guy. Nobody on. As he takes strike one, that one at 96. And to count 0-2. There's a chopper. Leary. Throw pulls him off the bag.
Well, that and the timing of that play was made askew because of that high hop. And it is a base hit, not the fault of Leary. He came out to make the play and would have made the play, but for this hop. Takes him off his footwork and throws it just wide of the bag. So the first hit of the day for Encarnacion.
And just the 4th hit for the Blue Jays. So here's Josh Thole. Who caught in game 2. Pretty good pass at that one. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 27-year-old. Only last year Buffalo hit 322.
As long as they have R.A. Dickey, which is going to be for a bit, Tolley's going to be here.
There you go. 2 down. Well, catching a knuckleball if you can do that, and that's just a vanishing breed, obviously, the knuckleball. And you don't get that much practice.
No, and you're not going to find too many of them. So when you do find a knuckleball pitcher, you have to have somebody who can handle them. Otherwise, it's pass ball and wild pitcherama.
That's it. That's the only way we could ever score a run off Hoyt Wilhelm. Here's Ghost. Ghost had a big pinch hit yesterday. Led off the bottom of the ninth with a double. Finally came around to score in that 4-3 Sox victory.
Putnam was in the game. It was a Ghost double, a Kawasaki single, scoring him. And then Zach got Reyes, Cabrera, and Encarnacion, three of the toughest guys around, to nail down a one-run victory.
Base hit he had yesterday was shot right down and just inside the bag at third. So 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out here in the bottom of the ninth. The Sox trying to make it 3 in a row over the first place Toronto Blue Jays. Guns right over, and this ball game is over. So we start off losing 4 in a row to the Minnesota Twins. We wind up winning 3 in a row on this trip to the Toronto Blue Jays. And we'll be back. Yes.